It's Miss Talhami, and today our goal is to solve equations with roots. So in order to do that, we need to recall some information. So take a look at the top here. It says, what number squared equals 64? So I really set it up like this. So let's take a look here. What number needs to go here so that if I square it, I get 64? Let's think. Is 2 squared 64? What does that mean? It would have to be the number times itself equals 64. So what number is that? And some of you are saying, hey, that number is 8. 8 times 8 is 64. Now, I would say you're only half correct here. 8 is a correct answer, but there is another answer. Does anybody know what other number times itself also gives you 64? If you said -8, then you are correct. Because remember, a negative times a negative will give us a positive. So this is very important that you really remember this, that when you are squaring a number, a positive times a positive is a positive, and a negative times a negative is a positive. So if I were to write this, look at this next part. If I were to write this equation using a variable, so instead of a blank here, I use a variable, it would look something like this. X squared equals 64. Where I would have to solve for x. Now we have to remember, what did we just learn? If I am going to solve for x here, I need to get rid of this squared. So to get rid of the squared, we have to do the opposite or the inverse. The opposite of a squared is the square root. Now the square root gets rid of the squared. And I get, here, let me just move this. I get x equals. Now, we just learned the answer is not only 8. It's either a positive 8 or a negative 8. So I could write that as plus a positive or negative 8. So you could write your answer like that, or you could write it in brackets to show that these are my two answers, -8 and +8. So here, this is what we're going to write notes on right here. This is what we just learned. As I solve this, I have to remember that the square root of a number is positive and negative. So we have to remember that. So the question is, does this apply to all the roots? So it works for a square root, but does it work for when we have x to the 3rd, or x to the 4th, or x to the 5th, or x to the 6th? So that's the question we want to ask before we could even solve an equation that has these exponents. So let's see. Let's look at this first example right here. So this is just like the example we have. X squared. How do I get rid of the squared? So if I have x squared, I have to square root. So I get x equals, now remember, the square root of 4. You could do this right in your calculator, where you can do the square root of 4 equals. Now, your calculator only gives you the answer 2, but we just learned that when we do a square root, it's a positive or a -2. Or I could write it like this. My answer is either a -2 or a +2. You could write positive or negative. I like to write my smaller numbers first. So let's see if that works the same way for this next one. So if I look here, I need to think, what number to the third power equals 8? So I need to come into my calculator. Now, to get the cubed root, so to get rid of a cube here, I don't square root, I now have to cube root. Okay, so here I have to cube root, because a cube root will get rid of the 3. And then I can get from my calculator what x equals. So I'm going to go into my calculator, and I'm going to click Math. And if you look here, I believe it's the fourth one down. See how the fourth one, number 4, says the cubed root? So I'm going to put the cubed root of 8 and click Enter. So now it gives me 2. So I already know one of my answers is 2, but the question is, so that means 2 times 2 times 2 gives me 8. Does it work if I do -2 times -2 times -2? Will I get a positive 8? When I click Enter, I don't. I get a -8. So it does not work where a negative times a negative times a negative gives me a positive. So the only answer here is 2. So only the answer positive 2 works here. Let's keep trying. The next one, to get rid of the power 4, I need a fourth root. So the fourth root will get rid of the 4. So now let me go into my calculator. And in my calculator, I click Math. Now if I look at the fourth, if I look at the fourth one down, the fourth one down only has the 3. But if I look at the fifth one down on this calculator app, it says N root. If you have a TI calculator, it might say X root. Either way, number 5 is the one that you want to choose. Because, I mean, it might have something already in there, but you see how there's a little small box right here. And I could put the number 4 in there. I know it might be a little blurry for you, but I'll do that again. So Math, and I'm going to go to number 5 and click Enter. And in here I'm going to put 5. So I want the fifth root of, and what was the number there? Oh no, I don't want the fifth root, so hold on. I need to put the fourth root of 16. And look what it gives me. It gives me the answer 2, which means 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So 4 times is 16. Does it work if I do it -2 4 times? Whoops, so sorry, typo. Think about it. A negative times a negative times a negative times a negative. Do you think it's going to give us a positive? The answer is yes. So it worked both times. So the answer here is plus n minus 2. So I don't know if you already see the pattern here, but I already do. So to get rid of the 5, I need to fifth root. I need a fifth root this 32. So I don't know what that answer is. I think I purposely made sure that it was something easy every time. So I'm going to fifth root the 32. And it's a 2, so that means 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. That works. But does it work if I have -2? -2. Whoops. And then -2. Does it work? No, it does not. I get a negative. So the answer here is only 2. Okay, and then this last one, I want to sixth root. So I get that the sixth root, make this a 6 of 64, is 2. And if you check it as well, let's try it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good. Now let me try 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wow, it also gave us a positive 64. So this works for both positive and negative too. So I want you to take a look here. What is the pattern? When did I have both a negative and a positive? And when did I only have a 2? So look at how many times I had a negative and a positive. What was the root when we did it? And look at when we only had this positive 2. So if you notice, every time the exponent was an even number. So here I had the number 2. Here I had the number 4. Here I had the number 6. Every time the exponent, the root, was positive, positive, it was an even number, my values were both positive and negative. So in these examples, we can conclude if the exponent is even, then the solution is plus or positive and negative. All right? So then let's look at every time it's odd. So here we have an odd and here we have an odd, and I'm sure if we keep going, the same thing will happen. If it's odd, so if the exponent is odd, then the solution is, now here's the thing, you might say the solution is positive. In these examples, they were. But I'm going to try one extra example right here over on the side. So here's another example. So let's use an odd exponent. Let's say x, let's use one from here. X to the third power equals. Now, what if I change just to say negative 8? Can I solve this by doing the cubed root of a negative 8? Is there a number so that if I multiply it by itself 3 times, I'll get a negative 8? So let's check the calculator. So math, and now for the cube root, I can just use the fourth one down of a negative 8. Let's try it. Oh, this gave me a weird answer, huh? Hold on. So I'm not sure why my calculator gave me a weird answer. I'm going to try this one more time. So, negative 8. I'm not sure why it's giving me a strange one. Okay. Well, okay, my calculator is not doing it correctly, but here's the thing. If I do the cubed root of just 8, I'm going to get the number 2. So the question is, what number times itself 3 times will give me a negative 8? Let's try negative 2. If you look, negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 will give me a negative 8. So that means the cubed root of negative 8 is negative 2. And only negative 2. I'm not sure why my calculator was giving me a weird number, so I apologize for that. But this was like a little extra example on the side. Why is this important? Because if the exponent is odd, like it was here, and it was here, and it is here, the solution is, so here was a positive 8, my answer was a positive 2. Here's my number was a 32, a positive 32. my answer is a positive 2. Here it's a negative 8, so my answer is negative 8. So the solution is the same sign as the number in the root. And it's really important that you understand that. So if inside the root it's a positive, then my answer is only positive. If inside is positive, then the answer is positive. If inside the root is negative, then my answer is negative. So I'm going to do a few examples with you. If you have any questions, please make sure you reach out to me. So over here, if I want to solve this, to solve for x, my goal is to get rid of everything around it on that side. So I'm first going to draw this line and tell myself, well, the only thing that I have to get rid of is that squared. So to get rid of a squared, I need to square root. So whatever I do to this left side, I have to do to the right. A square root eliminates a squared. And now x equals, if you put in the calculator the square root of 100, you will get 10. But we just said, if the exponent is even, 2 is an even number, then the solution is positive and negative. So here my answer is positive and negative 10. And you can always check. You can say, well, is 10 times 10 100? Yes. Is negative 10 times negative 10 positive 100? And the answer to that is yes as well. So my final answer here, if I want to write in a solution set, is negative and positive 10. Then if I look at the next question, or pause it where you need to, but I'm going to keep going. Again, my goal is to get the exponent first alone before I do any roots. So I first need to get rid of the number in front of it by dividing by 3. So I'm left with x squared equals 25. Then again, I need to get rid of the squared. To get rid of the squared, I have to square root. And we just said when you square root, if it's an even exponent, my answer is going to be positive and negative. And the square root of 25 is 5. So my two answers are negative 5 and positive 5. And then this third example. Again, your goal is to get this squared alone. So in order to do that, I first need to get rid of that minus 36. So to get rid of that minus 36, I have to do the inverse. Plus 36. So I get m squared equals 36. Then I have to square root to get rid of a squared. I get that m equals, remember, the exponent was even, so I get plus or minus, a positive or negative 6, because the square root of 36 is 6. So I get two answers here, negative 6 and positive 6. So right here you might want to pause the video. I just did the first 3 examples here with you. And now maybe you should try these next 3 examples. And then come back when you're done and press play, and the answers are already going to be up here. So I'm going to post the answers now. And if you're ready to see them, you can press play. So here's the work for number 4, and number 5, and number 6. It is very important for you to notice that for number 5, I ended up needing to square root a negative 9, which you cannot do. You cannot square root a negative answer. So for this problem, there is no answer. So look, I left it empty. It cannot work. Same thing here. This one cannot work. The only one that works is number 4. So some of you may have thought the answer was 3. That's incorrect, because 3 times 3 is a positive 9, not a negative 9. Okay, so now I'm going to do numbers 7, 8, and 9 with you. So let's start with number 7. So starting with number 7, again, I need to get my exponent by itself. So I'm first going to divide both sides by 4, and I get x to the third equals. Now, if you want to do this correctly, you could use your calculator, and you will get 8. Then I want to get rid of the, now, here I have a cubed root, or I have a third exponent to the third. So when I root it, careful, we're not square rooting, we need to cube root. A cube root will get rid of a 3. Now, if you remember from before, if it is an odd, look up here, if it's an odd exponent, then the solution is the same sign as the number in the root. So if I look here, the number in the root is a positive 8. So my answer will be positive. And then I need to know what is the cubed root of 8. So I'm going to do the cubed root of 8. And I get 2. So my answer here is just a positive 2. Nothing else. With number 8. Let's try and solve this. My first step is to subtract 81. Then I get x to the fourth equals negative 81. Then, since I have a fourth power, my answer is going to be positive or negative. But wait, when I fourth root this negative 81, the question is there a number that if I multiply by itself 4 times, I will get 81? Let's try it. So math, I want a fourth root, 81. And I get 3. Okay, so we just said the answer should be positive and negative. And it should give us this 81. So let's try this out. 3 times, oops, so sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now when I do it, here's the positive. Did it give me the negative 81 that I wanted? If you notice, both times that I do it, I get a positive 81. But in my problem here, I have a negative 81. So actually, this one does not have an answer. It has no answer because, and if some of you caught this, we cannot fourth root a negative number. So you cannot root a negative number if the exponent is even. And on to this last example together. Let's subtract 16. I get 5x to the third equals 0. I'm going to divide by 5. I get x to the third still equals 0. And then now to get rid of a cube, I need to cube root. Now, if you check this in your calculator, it should tell you this, what number times itself 3 times will give me 0. The answer is 0. So my answer for that, for number 9, is 0. So here I have the 3 remaining problems. You can pause the video if you need to and you want to try it on your own. Now would be a good time to pause it. So when you're ready, you can come back and check these answers. If you have any questions, you know where to reach me. You can either email me, message me on Remind, or message me on Schoology. Good luck and have a great day. Bye.